EVs are failing, and that is the real truth. Why? Dealership issues, reliability and range concerns, just to name a few. And honestly, this is the end of EVs. So watch carefully, because I'm about to talk about the facts and the real issues that nobody is talking about. Let's start with the elephant in the room: range and charging concerns. Now, don't get me wrong, EVs have made strides in the range department lately. We're talking models that can clock over 300 miles on a single charge. It's impressive, right? But hold your horses. That still might not cut it for those epic road trips, unless you're cool with making pit stops at charging stations left and right. And that is, if you can find one, because it's not like gas stations, which you can find everywhere. And here is the thing: gas stations aren't going to morph into EV charging hubs anytime soon. And don't just take my word for it. According to an article that really dug deep into the whole deal and factored in all the works, the power setup, the lines, the actual chargers themselves, heck, even jazzing up the place so folks don't lose their minds waiting for their ride to juice up, claimed it is really hard to do, because stations will not make a profit if they do that. You see, even in California, the leader of the pack in electric car ownership in the US, where over 1 million of these bad boys are cruising around, a whopping 90% of charging action happens right at home. So why on earth would anyone go through the hassle of outfitting gas stations with chargers when they only snag 10% of the market share? And it's the same issue with batteries. They've come a long way, but they still need a lot more development. I mean, these things just take their off days out of the blue. You know, like how your phone's battery decides to throw a tantrum when it's too cold? EV batteries aren't immune to that drama. But EVs take it a bit too far. They can be downright unpredictable, especially when they're pushed on the limit. We're talking about hauling heavy loads or going off-road. And on top of all of this, there is charging anxiety, which is a whole other beast to tackle. Imagine you're all excited to hit the road in your shiny new EV, only to realize there's a severe lack of charging spots along your route. It's like trying to find water in the desert, only less poetic and more frustrating. And don't even get me started on the horror stories of chargers gone rogue. The crazy thing is that it's not just happening in rural areas or even on the outskirts of cities. Even EV havens like San Francisco Bay have their fair share of charger issues. Last year alone, 1 out of every 5 charging attempts ended up being a total bust. And don't even get me started on home charging. Not everyone's got the luxury of juicing up their ride in their own garage. I mean, just look at the stats. A meager 40% of potential buyers are even considering going electric, according to Boston Consulting Group. And those who are, well, they've got some seriously high standards. They want it all: a sleek ride, long-range stamina, and the speediest pit stops. Now, it's clear why the Biden administration has pumped the brakes on its grand vision of electrifying 2/3 of all new vehicles by 2032. Talk about a reality check. Despite throwing around discounts like confetti and dangling juicy incentives, the EV market is hitting the brake instead of zooming ahead. Turns out the electric vehicle market isn't growing as fast as they hoped. Well, let me explain, because that is just the short answer. The truth is more complicated. You see, it is technically growing, and you don't need a magnifying glass to spot those EVs gathering dust on the dealership lots. Dealers are flipping the switch from ecstatic to downright disappointed with the current EV sales. Can you blame them? They've got more EVs than they know what to do with, sitting around for over 100 days. That's like having a garage full of shiny toys but no one to play with them. So, what's the deal? Well, last year the supply chain mess finally untangled itself. Car manufacturers hit the gas pedal and cranked up production, expecting to ride the wave of growth from the past few years. That is when the market saw a whopping 90% decrease year over year. But things took a detour. Growth hit the brakes, slowing down to a modest 50% last year. And here we are, still stuck at less than 8% of the total US car market. That's a roadblock we were supposed to have passed ages ago. With demand in the slow lane and supply in overdrive, it's no wonder dealers are struggling to move their EV fleets. Manufacturers set their sights on the glory days of early adopters, but now that the new car smell has worn off and the average man is still on the fence about electric rides, it's no surprise we're hitting some speed bumps. So when automakers start dialing back production on certain EV models, it's all part of the predictable pit stop on the electric highway. It just doesn't make sense for the masses to start adopting EVs, knowing what we know now, and the people who owned EVs are now trying to sell them as fast as possible. But let's talk about a crucial factor that often slips under the hood when we're in the market for a shiny new ride: resale value. We all want our wheels to retain some of that initial sparkle, right? Now, when it comes to EVs, it's like navigating through a maze of uncertainty. Why? Well, the used EV market is kind of like a ghost town. It's as tough as trying to find a unicorn out there. And what's the main culprit? Those pesky battery concerns. But that's not all. EVs tend to shed their value very quickly. EVs will wave goodbye to nearly 50% of their value in just 5 years. Compare that to the industry average of 38%, or the roughly 37% for our good old gas guzzlers. And don't even get me started on pickup trucks and hybrids. They're like turtles in a race when it comes to depreciation. Now, when we say this, we're not talking about the cheap EVs or even the cheaply manufactured ones. No, even the Tesla Model 3, the diamond in the rough, is also losing around 43% of its value after 5 years. And then there are the ones like the Nissan Leaf and Chevy Bolt. They're practically shedding value like autumn leaves, with depreciation rates over 50% each. And the Tesla Model S is in the same boat, losing around 55% of its worth in 5 years. But hey, let's kick it up a notch and talk luxury. Ever heard of the Porsche Taycan? That bad boy's like the golden goose of EVs, but here's the kicker. It can lose over 100 grand of value in just 4 years. Compare that to the Porsche 911, which keeps its value tighter than a vault. So when it comes down to choosing between the Taycan and the 911, the choice is as clear as crystal. Now, it might seem like it can't get any worse, but trust me, it does. We were as surprised as you. I mean, everyone knows that the industry is struggling, but this is just absurd. If you ask me, this should have been the end of it all, or at least until we find any new approach, and we haven't even talked about the other half of the problem. Now watch carefully because this is the last nail in the coffin. A lot of people think that EVs are the pinnacle of simplicity compared to those roaring internal combustion engines, right? I mean, fewer parts, fewer problems. It's logical, isn't it? Well, hold on to your hat because reality just threw us a curveball. According to Consumer Reports, EVs are hitting a few bumps on the reliability highway. In fact, brace yourself for this bombshell. They're reportedly a whopping 80% less reliable than their gas-guzzling counterparts. What's causing this bumpy ride, you ask? Mainly, it's a roller coaster of software glitches, battery blunders, assembly mishaps, and quality control quibbles. You name it, EVs seem to be grappling with it. And let's not beat around the bush, let's talk dollars and cents. Sure, EVs might seem like the thriftier option at first glance. No oil changes, no fuss, right? Well, hold on to your horses. It turns out those bad boys pack on the pounds, which means you're burning through tires like nobody's business. And as for brakes, well, let's just say they're not lounging around either, despite all their fancy regenerative braking tech. And don't get me started on repair bills. With a shortage of skilled technicians and some mind-bendingly complex fixes needed, especially in the battery and body department, your wallet might just start whimpering at the mere thought. And let's not forget about the initial cost. Sure, they've been becoming more budget-friendly, but let's not kid ourselves. They're not exactly falling from the sky into everyone's driveways just yet. In the past year, snagging a shiny new EV has set you back somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000 depending on who you ask. Hey, that's a bit of improvement from their hefty $65,000 average back in 2022. But let's face it, it's still not like your regular gas guzzler that goes for around $48,000 on average. See the difference? And that's not all. The real kicker is the slim pickings when it comes to affordable EV models. Seriously, there's only a couple of them kicking off under $30,000, and a handful more in the $30,000 to $40,000 range. Anything beyond that, and you're talking some serious cash. So the average person looking to hop on the EV bandwagon doesn't have much of a buffet to choose from. But the spending spree doesn't stop at the dealership. No, there's the whole insurance deal to consider too. And let me tell you, insuring an EV ain't exactly a walk in the park. If you ask me, EVs are about to be a thing of the past. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.